The first murder. The body in Central Park. New York City was still asleep when the first patrol car arrived at Central Park. A pale fog drifted through the towering trees, softening the glow of the Manhattan skyline, while blue and red lights flickered across the rain-soaked grass. Somewhere beneath the silence, a killer had left a message waiting to be found. Yellow crime scene tape stretched between ancient oak trees as NYPD officers secured the area. The usual sounds of early morning runners and dog walkers had been replaced by the crackle of police radios and the quiet murmur of detectives exchanging theories. A young woman lay motionless beneath a towering maple tree. Dressed in a cream-colored blouse beneath a black trench coat, she looked as though she had simply fallen asleep, until someone noticed the thin line of blood beneath her jaw. A single wound. Clean. Precise. Silent. The kind of murder that wasn't driven by rage. It was planned. The kind that kept homicide detectives awake long after the case files were closed. An ambulance remained parked nearby, its emergency lights flashing against the damp pavement. The paramedics had already finished their work. There was nothing left to save. Only questions remained. The deep rumble of another engine rolled through the park. An unmarked black Ford Explorer stopped beside the crime scene tape. Detective Ethan Carter stepped out, buttoning his charcoal overcoat against the chilly autumn air. At 35, Ethan had become one of the NYPD Homicide Division's most respected investigators. He wasn't the loudest detective in the department, nor the most charismatic. He simply solved murders. The newspapers called him relentless. Criminals called him impossible. His fellow detectives called him when every lead had gone cold. Yet, despite his reputation, one investigation had haunted him for the last 4 years. One case. One mistake. One woman. He had spent years trying to bury the memories. Now, without knowing it, he was about to dig them back up. A patrol officer hurried toward him. "Morning, Detective Carter." Ethan flashed his badge. "What do we have?" Female. Approximately 28 years old. A jogger found her around 5:20 this morning. Identity? Driver's license, says Emily Dawson. Witnesses? The officer shook his head. None. Security cameras? Nothing facing this section of the park. Ethan glanced toward the surrounding trees. Central Park covered more than 800 acres. A killer who understood the park could disappear in minutes. He slipped beneath the crime scene tape and approached the body. The medical examiner looked up. "Morning, Detective. What can you tell me?" Time of death. Between 2 and 3 this morning. She gently pointed toward the wound. Single stab wound to the carotid artery. No hesitation. No excessive force. No signs of panic. Ethan studied the victim carefully. Her clothes were neat. Her jewelry remained untouched. Her handbag rested beside her. Wallet, phone, keys, everything was still there. Robbery wasn't the motive. The medical examiner continued. No defensive wounds. He looked up. Meaning? She either trusted the person standing in front of her, WEA, or never realized she was in danger. Ethan slowly nodded. Professional, calculated, patient. Whoever had done this knew exactly what they were doing. He surveyed the surrounding area. No footprints, no weapon. No discarded clothing. No blood trail leading away from the scene. Almost perfect. Almost. A young crime scene technician approached, holding a small evidence bag. "Detective, you should take a look at this." Inside the bag rested a beautifully crafted silver lapel pin shaped like a musical note. It gleamed beneath the flashing patrol lights. Ethan frowned. Found where? In her right hand. Was she holding it? No. It had been placed there. He studied the pin for several seconds. It wasn't damaged, not scratched, not stained with blood. Someone had taken the time to leave it behind, not by accident, on purpose. He looked toward the victim again. A signature. The technician nodded. That's what we think. Before Ethan could ask another question, another convoy of unmarked police vehicles entered the park. Several detectives climbed out. Captain Robert Hayes stepped from the lead vehicle. Beside him walked a woman Ethan hadn't seen in 4 years. Dark chestnut hair, navy trench coat, confident posture, sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. Detective Sophia Bennett. Ethan felt his chest tighten. For a brief moment, the sounds around him faded. The flashing lights, the police radios, the conversations, everything disappeared. Only Sophia remained. She hadn't changed. Or maybe she had. She looked older, more guarded. But just as determined as the last time he'd seen her. Sophia noticed him almost immediately. Their eyes met across the crime scene. Neither spoke. Neither smiled. 4 years earlier, they had been the NYPD's highest-rated detective partnership. They had trusted each other with their lives. And somewhere between long nights, impossible cases, and too many cups of bad coffee, they had fallen in love. Then came one investigation. One accusation. One betrayal. Their partnership ended overnight. So did everything else. Captain Hayes walked toward Ethan. Carter. Ethan tore his eyes away from Sophia. Captain. Hayes handed him a thin case folder. Starting today, you're no longer working alone. Ethan already knew what he was about to say. No. Hayes raised an eyebrow. I haven't even finished. I know what you're going to ask. And the answer is still no. Sophia stopped beside them. I wasn't asked either. The captain sighed. The mayor's office wants our 2 best detectives on this investigation. You 2 have the highest homicide clearance rate in the department. You don't have to like each other. You just have to catch a killer. Silence settled between them. Finally, Ethan accepted the file. For the case. Sophia gave a single nod. For the case. Just then, a crime scene photographer called out from beneath the tree. Captain, detectives, you need to see this. Everyone hurried back to the victim. The photographer carefully lifted Emily Dawson's left wrist. Written in neat black ink were 2 chilling words. Welcome back. Sophia's expression changed instantly. That wasn't written for her. Ethan stared at the message. No. His voice was barely above a whisper. It was written for us, far beyond the police barricades. Not 2 across 5th Avenue. A man watched the crime scene through a pair of binoculars from the window of a parked black sedan. His face remained hidden beneath a baseball cap. A slow smile spread across his lips. The detectives had arrived, exactly as he had planned. And this, W was only the opening movement of his symphony. Part 2. Former Partners. The words W. Alcom. Back lingered in the cold morning air long after the forensic photographer finished documenting the victim's wrist. Neither Ethan nor Sophia spoke. Captain Hayes looked between them. I'm assuming this means something. Ethan kept his eyes fixed on the victim. It wasn't written for Emily Dawson. Sophia nodded. It was written for us. Hayes frowned. You've worked together before? Sophia let out a quiet breath. For 6 years. The best detective team in homicide, Ethan added without looking at her. Until 4 years ago. The captain sensed there was more to the story, but this wasn't the time. I don't care what happened between you 2. I care about catching whoever thinks he can toy with the NYPD. He pointed toward the evidence tent. I want every piece of evidence processed before noon. Inside the mobile crime lab, technicians examined the silver music note pin under a digital microscope. Crime scene analyst Daniel Brooks looked up. It's handmade. Ethan stepped closer. What makes you say that? There aren't any manufacturing marks. No serial number. No company logo. It's custom. Sophia studied the pin. So, whoever made this, made this BO no, made it specifically for this murder. Daniel nodded. And there's more. He rotated the pin beneath the microscope. Tiny letters appeared along the curved edge, so small they were invisible to the naked eye. Sophia leaned closer and read aloud. Every masterpiece begins with a single note. Silence filled the lab. Ethan folded his arms. Our killer isn't leaving clues. He's leaving invitations. Across the park, another officer approached carrying Emily Dawson's phone. It finally unlocked. Digital forensics specialist Maya Chen connected it to her workstation. Messages are normal. Calls are normal. Nothing suspicious. She paused. Except... Ethan looked up. What? There's a calendar reminder. She opened it. Scheduled for 2045 a.m. The title contained only 2 words. Private recital. Sophia frowned. Where? No location, no contact, no additional details. Ethan looked toward the victim through the glass window. She wasn't meeting a friend. She was meeting her killer. Captain Hayes received another report. The medical examiner identified trace particles under the victim's shoes. What kind? Sawdust. Everyone looked confused. Sawdust? The medical examiner nodded. Fresh, not from the park. Ethan thought for a moment. Sawdust. Tominius. Sophia finished the thought. Wooden stage floors. They looked at each other. Theater. Concert hall. The killer had already begun leading them toward the next location. Before anyone could discuss it further, Maya called from her workstation. Detectives. I found something. She enlarged a deleted photograph recovered from Emily's phone. The picture showed Emily smiling beside another woman. Behind them stood a grand piano. On the wall hung a banner. Carnegie Hall Charity Gala. Sophia whispered. She performed there. Ethan nodded slowly. And I don't think she was the real target. As investigators packed up the crime scene, Ethan walked toward the police barricade. Sophia caught up beside him. You still blame me? He didn't answer. I know you do. He stared across Central Park. I blamed myself long before I blamed you. For the first time. Sophia had no reply. Neither noticed the man across Fifth Avenue, lowering his binoculars. Inside his black sedan, he opened a leather notebook. He wrote only 3 words. Movement 1 complete. Then he smiled. The duet has finally begun. Part 3. The composer's invitation. By early afternoon, one police plaza had transformed into a war room. A wall-sized investigation board displayed photographs of Emily Dawson, the silver music note pin, the words "Welcome back," and every known detail surrounding the murder. Yet none of it explained one question. Why Emily? Captain Hayes addressed the room. Our victim taught piano lessons 3 evenings a week. She volunteered at Carnegie Hall. No criminal record. No enemies. No obvious motive. So unless someone has a miracle. 0F. We're starting from 0. Nobody spoke. Until Maya Chen broke the silence. I recovered one more deleted file. She projected it onto the screen. It wasn't a photograph. It was a voice recording. Timestamp 2041 A.M. Exactly minutes before Emily's estimated time of death. Ethan pressed play. Static. Footsteps. Then Emily's nervous voice. I don't understand. Why did you ask me to come here? A calm male voice answered. Because every great performance deserves an audience. Emily sounded frightened. Who are you? The man chuckled softly. A composer. The recording suddenly ended. The room fell silent. Sophia looked at Ethan. He wanted us to hear that. Ethan nodded. He knew we'd recover it. Later that evening, Ethan returned to his apartment overlooking the East River. He loosened his tie, poured a cup of black coffee, and pinned a copy of the evidence photographs to the wall. Something didn't fit. Emily wasn't connected to organized crime. She wasn't wealthy. She wasn't politically important. She was chosen. His phone rang. Sophia. He hesitated before answering. What is it? I found something. Where? The old case files. His heartbeat quickened. What old case? Our last investigation together. 20 minutes later. T. They met inside the NYPD archives. Sophia placed a dusty file on the table. The Riverside Theater murders, 4 years earlier. The last case they had worked before, everything fell apart. She opened the evidence folder. Inside was a crime scene photograph, a silver music note pin, identical to the one found beside Emily Dawson. Ethan stared at it. No. Sophia nodded slowly. We missed this. It wasn't random then. And it isn't random now. Before they could continue, the archive lights flickered. Then the building's fire alarm suddenly blared. Officers began evacuating the floor. As Ethan reached for the old case file, he noticed an envelope resting on top of it. It hadn't been there moments earlier. No one had entered the room. No one had been seen. Yet, somehow, someone had placed it there. Inside was a single sheet of handwritten music. No notes, only a message. You couldn't finish my first symphony. Let's see if you can survive the second. The composer. Ethan and Sophia exchanged a silent look. The killer hadn't just planned a murder. He had planned their reunion. And somewhere in New York City, the composer was already preparing his next performance. Chapter 2. The Second Victim. Part 1. The Midnight Performance. Rain washed over Manhattan as midnight settled across the city. Neon lights shimmered on rain-slick streets, while yellow taxis disappeared into the darkness. Somewhere above the skyline, thunder rolled between the skyscrapers. At one police plaza, the investigation into Emily Dawson's murder had reached a standstill. A whiteboard covered one wall of the major case squad office. Victim, Emily Dawson. Location, Central Park. Cause of death, single stab wound. Evidence, silver music note pin. Suspect, unknown. Alias, the composer. Detective Ethan Carter stood alone before the board, staring at the photograph of Emily Dawson. Something about the case refused to make sense. Serial killers usually hunted people who fit a pattern. Age, occupation, lifestyle. Emily fit none of them. She was simply chosen. Behind him, the office door opened. Sophia Bennett stepped inside, carrying 2 paper cups. Thought you'd still be here. Ethan accepted one. You remembered. You still drink coffee that's strong enough to dissolve a spoon. A faint smile crossed his face. For 1 second. That almost sounded like the old days. The smile disappeared from Sophia's face. The old days are why we're here. Neither said another word. The silence between them was interrupted by Captain Robert Hayes. Conference room, now. 5 minutes later, the homicide team gathered around a digital map of Manhattan. Captain Hayes pointed toward a blinking red marker. Our victim attended a charity concert at Carnegie Hall 3 nights ago. The same night, she created the calendar reminder titled Private Recital. Sophia folded her arms. So, we're back to Carnegie Hall. Hayes nodded. We've already interviewed the staff. No one remembers seeing anything unusual. Ethan looked at the map. People remember what they expect to see. The composer doesn't give them that. Before Hayes could answer, the emergency phone on the conference table rang. Every detective looked toward it. The captain answered. Major Case Squad. Silence. His expression slowly changed. When? By. Are you certain? Are you were? By. We're on our way. He slowly lowered the receiver. The composer just performed again, 7 minutes later. Tiny, unmarked NYPD SUVs raced through Midtown Manhattan. Red and blue lights reflected across glass towers as Ethan drove through nearly empty streets. Sophia read the dispatch report aloud. Victim discovered inside Carnegie Hall. Time of discovery, 12/118. Building closed to the public. Body located by the overnight security supervisor. Ethan tightened his grip on the steering wheel. He wanted us back there. Sophia looked toward the glowing lights of Carnegie Hall appearing in the distance. No, he expected us. The famous concert hall stood surrounded by police vehicles. News helicopters circled overhead. Officers held reporters behind barricades. The second murder hadn't even been officially announced. Yet, somehow, the media already knew. Captain Hayes noticed the cameras. He has someone feeding information. Ethan nodded.
Or he's feeding it himself.
They entered the historic building. The lobby was silent. Crystal chandeliers reflected across polished marble floors. The echoes of their footsteps carried through the empty corridors. No music, no voices, only silence. Almost. As they approached the main auditorium, a single violin note drifted through the darkness. Everyone stopped. Sophia looked toward Ethan. "You hear that?" He nodded. It shouldn't be possible. The security supervisor swallowed nervously. "We turned off every speaker." The note came again. Long, haunting, beautiful. It echoed through the massive theater like someone was performing for an invisible audience. The detectives pushed open the auditorium doors. Rows of empty red velvet seats stretched toward the stage. One spotlight illuminated the center. A lone violin rested on a chair. Its bow moved slowly across the strings, by itself. Sophia whispered, "That's impossible." Ethan's eyes scanned the stage, hidden beneath the chair. A thin, transparent wire disappeared into the darkness above. "He wants us looking at the performance." The violin suddenly stopped. Silence returned. Then, another spotlight flickered on. At the center of the stage sat a man in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo, motionless, hands folded neatly in his lap. From a distance. He appeared to be waiting for the concert to begin. The medical examiner stepped forward. "It won't." Ethan approached slowly. The victim's eyes stared blankly toward the empty audience. A single stab wound marked his neck. No struggle, no panic, just like Emily Dawson. Beside the body rested another silver music note pin. But this time, there was something else. A folded concert program. Ethan opened it carefully. Inside, written in elegant black ink, were 6 chilling words. "Every duet needs a second movement." Sophia looked at the message. "He's talking to us again." Ethan nodded. "No." Before anyone could respond, Detective Maya Chen hurried onto the stage holding a tablet. "Ethan, you need to see this." She turned the screen toward him. A security camera had captured a single frame just minutes before the murder. A man wearing a black overcoat stood backstage, his face hidden beneath the brim of a hat. But he wasn't looking at the victim. He was staring directly into the security camera, as if he knew. Someone would eventually watch the footage, and then, almost as if planned, the figure slowly raised one gloved hand and applauded. The violinist. The auditorium remained silent. Every detective stood frozen as the image on Maya Chen's tablet replayed again. The mysterious figure wasn't running from the camera. He wasn't hiding his presence. He was acknowledging it. Almost. Greeting them. Captain Hayes folded his arms. "Freeze the frame." Maya enlarged the image. The man's face remained hidden beneath the shadow of a black fedora. His long overcoat concealed his build. Leather gloves covered both hands. Not a single identifiable feature remained. Sophia sighed. He planned every camera angle. Ethan nodded. And he wanted us to know it. The body was carefully examined where it sat. The victim appeared to be in his early 40s, well-dressed, no signs of a struggle. Medical examiner Dr. Lauren Pierce removed her gloves. Cause of death matches the first victim. Single stab wound, instant death. She paused. But this victim fought back. Ethan looked surprised. I thought you said there were no defensive wounds. There aren't. She pointed toward the victim's right hand. But there's dried skin beneath his fingernails. He grabbed his killer. The room suddenly became hopeful. DNA? Dr. Pierce shook her head. The killer anticipated that. She carefully opened an evidence bag. The skin doesn't belong to a person. Everyone stared. It belongs to a latex glove. The composer had worn 2 layers of protection, even while being attacked. Crime scene unit continued processing the stage. Maya examined the grand piano. No fingerprints. The bench has been wiped clean. What about the violin? She carefully inspected it. Brand new. No serial number. It was purchased specifically for tonight. Sophia slowly walked across the empty stage. He's not choosing random props. Everything has meaning. Her eyes settled on the folded concert program. She read the message again. Every duet needs a second movement. Then something caught her attention. The paper. Ethan looked over. What about it? She held it beneath the stage lights. It's heavier than ordinary printing paper. Maya joined them. It's sheet music stock. Ethan frowned. So? Sophia smiled slightly. It wasn't printed by Carnegie Hall. Meanwhile, Marcus Hill from Digital Forensics hurried into the auditorium carrying a laptop. We identified the victim. Everyone gathered around. Marcus displayed a photograph. Jonathan Mercer, age 43, professional violinist, resident conductor for the Manhattan Chamber Orchestra. Captain Hayes looked confused. A music teacher, a violinist. Ethan finished the thought. The connection isn't coincidence. Marcus continued. Jonathan performed at the same charity concert Emily attended 3 nights ago. Sophia looked at Ethan. The killer selected everyone from one event. But why? No one had an answer. As investigators searched Jonathan's dressing room backstage, Officer Ramirez called out. Detectives! Ethan and Sophia hurried inside. The room appeared untouched. Suit hanging neatly in the wardrobe. Open violin case on the table. Half-finished cup of coffee. Then Ethan noticed something unusual. A photograph sitting beside the mirror. It showed Jonathan smiling beside Emily Dawson. They weren't alone. Standing between them, W, was another woman. Her face had been carefully burned away. Only the edges of her body remained. Sophia whispered. The killer destroyed only one face. Ethan picked up the photograph. He wants us asking who she was. Captain Hayes entered. Can we identify her? Marcus zoomed into the damaged image. Maybe, if we rebuild it digitally. Ethan handed him the photo. Do it. As the team prepared to leave the dressing room, the building's fire alarm suddenly activated. Red emergency lights flooded the corridors. Sprinklers remained off. No smoke, no fire. Officer Ramirez checked the control panel. False alarm. Sophia looked toward Ethan. No. Distraction. At that exact moment, Maya shouted from the stage, "The body!" Everyone ran back into the auditorium. Jonathan Mercer remained exactly where they had left him. Except for one thing. The silver music note pin, WS, was gone. In its place lay a single white rose. Fresh. Its stem still wet. No officer had seen anyone approach the stage. No camera had recorded movement. Yet somehow, The composer had entered the crime scene. Tree. While it was surrounded by police. The White Rose. No one spoke. Every officer stared at the white rose resting beside Jonathan Mercer's body. Captain Hayes turned sharply. Lock the building down. Uniformed officers rushed through every hallway, every entrance, every emergency exit. Within minutes, Carnegie Hall was completely sealed. Nothing. No intruder, no hidden passage, no missing officer. It was as though the killer had walked through walls. Backstage, Maya reviewed every security camera. She rewound the footage frame by frame, then stopped. Ethan. You need to see this. The monitor showed the stage exactly 30 seconds before the fire alarm. Everything appeared normal. Then one spotlight flickered, for less than 2 seconds. When the light returned, the silver music note pin had vanished. The white rose was already there. Sophia stared at the screen. Someone edited the video. Marcus nodded. The timestamps don't match. 23 seconds are missing. Captain Hayes slammed his fist on the table. He hacked our cameras. Ethan remained calm. No, he planned them. Later that evening, the rebuilt photograph was finally ready. Marcus projected it onto the investigation board. The burned face slowly became visible through digital reconstruction. A woman in her early 30s, brown hair, green eyes, smiling beside Emily and Jonathan. Maya searched facial recognition databases. Within seconds, a match appeared. Rebecca Collins, concert pianist, 31 years old, currently living in Brooklyn. Sophia looked toward Ethan. If Emily was the first victim, that worm, and Jonathan the second, that worm, Rebecca is next. Ethan was already reaching for his coat. Let's move. The detectives raced through the rain toward Rebecca's apartment in Brooklyn. Sirens echoed across the East River. Traffic lights blurred against the windshield. Sophia called Rebecca repeatedly. Straight to voicemail. Again. Nothing. When they finally reached the apartment building, Ethan sprinted upstairs. Apartment 5B. He knocked. No answer. He tried again. Silence. The superintendent arrived with a spare key. The door slowly opened. The apartment was empty, lights still on, dinner untouched. A piano sat open in the living room. One sheet of music rested on the stand. Sophia carefully unfolded it. Instead of musical notes, another handwritten message. You're finally learning the melody, but you're still one note behind. The composer. Ethan searched the apartment. No struggle, no blood, no signs of forced entry. Only one thing appeared out of place: Rebecca's cell phone, still charging beside the couch. She had never left voluntarily. Marcus's voice suddenly came through Ethan's radio. Ethan, we just tracked Rebecca's smartwatch. Where? Marcus hesitated. You won't believe it. Try me. It just activated. WC. Inside Central Park. Ethan slowly looked toward Sophia. The killer wasn't fleeing New York. He was leading them back. To where his symphony had begun. The missing pianist. The ghost in Central Park rain continued to fall over New York City as Detective Ethan Carter steered his SUV through the nearly empty streets of Manhattan. The windshield wipers struggled to keep pace with the storm. Beside him, Detective Sophia Bennett stared at the glowing screen of her phone. Rebecca Collins' smartwatch signal remained active. Location, Central Park. The same place where Emily Dawson had been murdered. The composer wasn't running. He was leading them. Within minutes, NYPD patrol cars flooded the southern entrance of Central Park. Blue and red lights reflected off the rain-soaked pathways while officers spread across the park in coordinated search teams. Captain Robert Hayes stepped out of another vehicle. Status? Marcus Hill looked up from his tracking tablet. The smartwatch hasn't moved. Still transmitting. about 300 feet northeast. Hayes nodded. Search in pairs. No one goes alone. Ethan and Sophia followed the GPS signal deeper into the park. The further they walked, the quieter the city became. The sounds of traffic faded behind the thick trees. Only the rain remained. Sophia broke the silence. "You've been quiet." Ethan kept his flashlight pointed ahead. "I'm thinking. About Rebecca?" He hesitated. "About us." She looked away. "I didn't expect we'd ever work together again." "Neither did I." Another silence settled between them. Finally, Sophia spoke. "I never betrayed you." Ethan stopped walking. For the first time in 4 years, he looked directly into her eyes. "Then, who did?" Before she could answer, Marcus's voice crackled through Ethan's radio. "Signal is 20 feet ahead." The detectives approached a small clearing near an old stone bridge. Marcus pointed toward a wooden park bench. "There." Rebecca's smartwatch lay neatly in the center of the seat, still ticking, still connected. But Rebecca was nowhere to be found. Sophia carefully picked it up. No blood. No signs of a struggle. Ethan scanned the area with his flashlight. "The composer wanted us here." Officer Ramirez called from nearby. "Detective!" "I found footprints." Everyone rushed toward him. A single set of muddy footprints led away from the bench. Only one person, barefoot. They continued toward the lake, then suddenly disappeared. As though whoever made them had simply vanished into thin air. Sophia whispered, "That's impossible." Ethan slowly shook his head. "No. It's intentional. He wants us believing impossible things." Crime scene unit began searching the surrounding area. Within minutes, Maya Chen emerged, carrying another evidence bag. Inside was a folded sheet of music, the same heavy paper stock used in Carnegie Hall. Ethan unfolded it carefully. Again. No musical notes, only another handwritten message. Every audience watches the stage. No one watches backstage. The composer Sophia frowned. "Backstage?" Marcus suddenly looked up from his tablet. "Wait. Tuppel-ein. I know what he means." Everyone turned toward him. "The GPS." "What about it?" Marcus zoomed into the map. "We've been tracking Rebecca's watch. Not Rebecca." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. The watch was planted. Marcus nodded. "And while we were all searching Central Park, Doc. Someone logged into Rebecca Collins's bank account." Sophia's eyes widened. "From where?" Marcus turned the screen toward them. The location appeared in bold letters. Carnegie Hall. The detectives stared at the map in disbelief. The composer hadn't brought them back to the beginning. He had distracted them, while someone else returned to the scene of the second murder. Backstage. The rain intensified as Ethan's SUV sped through Midtown Manhattan. Its tires hissed across the wet pavement, while red traffic lights reflected against the windshield. No one spoke. The composer had fooled them. Again, he hadn't wanted them in Central Park. He had wanted Carnegie Hall left unguarded. Within minutes, they arrived outside the concert hall. The police barricades were still in place. Uniformed officers rushed toward Captain Hayes. "Sir!" No signs of forced entry. The doors were never opened. Hayes frowned. "Then how did someone get inside?" The officer shook his head. "We don't know." Ethan looked toward Sophia. "Let's start backstage." The massive auditorium remained exactly as they had left it. Jonathan Mercer's body had already been transported to the medical examiner's office. Only the empty spotlight remained. The abandoned violin still rested on its chair, silent, waiting. Sophia slowly walked toward the backstage corridor. The words from the composer's letter echoed in her mind. Every audience watches the stage. No one watches backstage. She stopped. He's trying to tell us something. Ethan nodded. He always is. Backstage consisted of a maze of narrow hallways, rehearsal rooms, storage closets, and dressing rooms. Officer Ramirez met them near the loading dock. We searched every room. Nothing. Marcus arrived moments later carrying a portable signal scanner. I picked up another wireless device. Ethan looked at him. Where? Marcus pointed toward the ceiling. Above us. Everyone looked up. A narrow metal catwalk stretched across the stage, nearly 40 feet overhead. Technicians normally used it to adjust lighting equipment. Sophia frowned. Has anyone searched up there? Ramirez hesitated. No. Ethan climbed the steel maintenance ladder first. Sophia followed close behind. The catwalk creaked beneath their boots. From above, the empty theater looked enormous. Rows of red seats disappeared into darkness. Halfway across the catwalk, Ethan stopped. There. Hidden behind one of the stage lights sat a tiny wireless camera, still recording. Marcus carefully removed the memory card. The composer filmed everything. Sophia looked around. Not just the murders. He filmed us. Back inside the mobile command vehicle, Maya inserted the memory card into her laptop. The first video appeared. Timestamp: 1 hour before Jonathan Mercer was murdered. The camera overlooked the stage. Jonathan entered carrying his violin. He looked nervous. Seconds later, a woman walked onto the stage. Rebecca Collins. Alive. She embraced Jonathan. The two appeared to argue. No audio, only gestures. Rebecca handed him a small envelope. Jonathan opened it. His face turned white. He shook his head violently. Rebecca grabbed his arm, pleading with him. Then, both of them looked toward the audience. Someone had entered the auditorium. Rebecca's expression turned to fear. Jonathan stepped in front of her, trying to protect her. The screen suddenly went black. Marcus frowned. The last 5 minutes were deleted. Sophia crossed her arms. Again, Ethan leaned closer. No. He pointed at the screen. Look. Just before the footage ended. W Nights. A reflection appeared in the polished surface of the grand piano. Not the killer. Someone else. A man wearing an expensive dark blue suit. No mask. No hat. Standing calmly in the front row. Watching. Marcus froze the frame. I can sharpen it. Within seconds, the blurry reflection became clearer. The man's face slowly emerged. Sophia's eyes widened. I know him. Captain Hayes looked over. Who is he? Sophia stared at the screen. He testified in one of my cases 3 years ago. Marcus searched facial recognition. A match appeared almost instantly. Daniel Whitmore, age 56. Chief Executive Officer of Whitmore Financial Group. Billionaire, political donor, member of several prestigious charities. No criminal record. Hayes looked confused. What's he doing backstage at Carnegie Hall after midnight? No one answered. Because no one knew. But Ethan had a feeling. The composer hadn't chosen his victims randomly. He was forcing them towards someone far more powerful than a serial killer. At that exact moment, Maya's computer emitted a loud alert. Another file had appeared on the memory card. No one had copied it. No one had touched the keyboard. The file name contained only 2 words. Play me. Ethan clicked it. A distorted male voice filled the speakers. Congratulations, detectives. You finally started looking backstage. Now ask yourselves one question. 2. The voice paused. Why would a billionaire attend a private rehearsal? 2, 4 people who were supposed to be dead? The recording ended. The room fell silent. The first suspect. No one spoke for several seconds. Daniel Whitmore's face remained frozen on the monitor. Captain Hayes finally broke the silence. Run everything. Business records, travel history, financial transactions. I want to know everything about him. Marcus was already typing. He owns half a dozen companies, several charitable foundations. He's donated millions to the arts. Sophia looked at the screen, which explains Carnegie Hall, but not Rebecca. Maya suddenly looked up. I found something else. She enlarged Jonathan Mercer's financial records. 3 months earlier, Jonathan had received 6 wire transfers, each worth exactly $50,000. The sender, Whitmore Foundation. Captain Hayes frowned. What was he paying him for? Marcus searched further. No employment contract, no consulting agreement, no performance invoices. The money has no explanation. Ethan looked toward Sophia. He wasn't paying Jonathan. He was buying his silence. Within the hour, a search warrant was approved. At dawn, a convoy of unmarked NYPD vehicles arrived outside Whitmore Financial Group in Lower Manhattan. The building rose nearly 60 stories above the street. Glass, steel, luxury. The lobby manager greeted detectives nervously. Mr. Whitmore hasn't arrived yet. When does he usually come in? 8:30. Ethan checked his watch. It was 7:05. We'll wait. 7 minutes later, a black Rolls-Royce Phantom pulled to the curb. Daniel Whitmore stepped onto the sidewalk. Perfectly tailored navy suit, silver tie, confident smile. He noticed the detectives immediately, instead of appearing surprised. He looked amused. Detective Carter. Ethan frowned. You know who I am? Whitmore smiled. I make it my business to know important people. Sophia stepped forward. We'd like to ask you a few questions. Of course. His smile never faded. I've been expecting you. Those words immediately put Ethan on edge. Inside Whitmore's office overlooking Manhattan, the billionaire remained remarkably calm. You attended a rehearsal at Carnegie Hall 2 nights ago.
Yes.
You knew Jonathan Mercer. Yes. You also knew Emily Dawson. Briefly. What about Rebecca Collins? Whitmore paused, then answered quietly. I was trying to save her. The room became silent. Before Ethan could continue, Whitmore's private assistant rushed into the office. Sir? Sir? She was visibly shaken. You need to see this. A television mounted on the wall switched to a breaking news broadcast. The reporter spoke rapidly. Breaking news. The body of concert pianist Rebecca Collins has just been discovered. Sophia felt her stomach drop. The screen changed to live aerial footage. Police vehicles surrounded an abandoned warehouse on Pier 17 along the East River. The reporter continued. Investigators believe she may be connected to the recent Central Park and Carnegie Hall murders. Whitmore slowly closed his eyes. I'm too late. Ethan looked sharply at him. What do you mean? Whitmore opened a desk drawer without saying a word. He placed an old photograph on the table. It showed Emily Dawson, Jonathan Mercer, Rebecca Collins, and, standing beside them, Detective Sophia Bennett. The picture had been taken years before. Sophia stared at it in disbelief. I've never seen this. Whitmore looked directly at her. No, you just don't remember. The words struck Ethan like a punch. Before anyone could ask another question, a loud explosion echoed from somewhere below the building. The entire office shook violently. Fire alarms screamed throughout the tower. Whitmore whispered only 4 words. He's here before you.